I want to welcome everyone to our special call meeting of April 23rd. I've asked Ms. Barksdale if she would open us in a word of prayer.
Bow our head, please. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you right now, Lord. Lord, thank you for allowing us to come together one more time, Lord Jesus. I ask you right now, Lord, just to intervene as we make executive decisions for our school district, Lord Jesus. And Lord, as we travel, as we experience this pandemic, Lord, I ask you just to continue to look over us, Lord. I know that man think that they have the answer, but you have the answer, Lord. And I just ask you right now, if it's your will, Lord, just to spare us from this pandemic, Lord Jesus, and just continue to hold us in the hollow of your hand. In your darling Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. You would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our agenda today is before you. I was here to discuss the district school calendar. Anything else need to be added to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I do have some questions about, I think it may fall under the calendar, but it may not. But it's academic questions, and I think it will fall under the calendar. But if not, I would ask for the privilege to bring it up.
Okay. All right, we need a motion to accept the agenda.
So move with the exceptions.
All right, and we have a second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? All right, we're going to move right into our district school calendar discussion.
We've been discussing trying to figure out how to complete this school year based on the coronavirus. Obviously, we're all aware that the governor has closed all schools for the remainder of the school year. I contacted Matt Jones. One of my biggest concerns was the FTE funding. Obviously, if we reduced our number of days, because we're normally paid on a 180-day calendar. That flexibility was granted to us based on the coronavirus, so we will not lose any funding. So the leadership team came together, and we've had more than one discussion on this, but the leadership team came together and discussed on the 19th what we can do for the end of school. Now, we have provided packets and Chromebooks and students' online lessons up to the 30th of April. That being said, that would leave us with 14 school days left. Normally, we would have end of year tests, have final exams, those kind of things. It's not unusual for that to encompass 14 to 20 days in preparation, actually taking exams, etc. With the coronavirus, obviously we have eliminated all those exams. The state and the governor has done that. So without those necessary, and in conversation with the principals and I in regards to what's good for our kids academically, we have recommended that we would close school on the 30th of April. In closing school on the 30th of April, we would be collecting Chromebooks and packets on the 27th of April and the 30th of April. We'll be collecting those from 8 to 12 and then from 3 to 6. We would have post-planning for all of our teachers, and we would spread it out over that amount of time, but we would have post-planning from May 1 to May 7. The purpose of that is so that we can, again, observe social distancing. It would take more than our normal post-planning of 2 days, but we would not have everybody in the building at the same time for the obvious reason. To compute final grades, we would do final grades based on the end of the third 9 weeks, which is the last time the students were actually in class. We would receive all the packets from the students. Those student packets would be reviewed by the teachers. Those student packets would only improve a student's grade. They could not hinder a student's grade. They could only improve a student's grade. If a student did not have the opportunity to complete it, wasn't able to complete it, it won't hurt them. If they did complete it and they understood it and didn't have a problem with it, then it could improve their grade. And that's the only way that we would use those, is to improve a student's grade. That being said, the students that did not do well or are not going to pass. As an example, we have 10 high school students and 6 middle school students that were identified as needing summer school to pass. We would conduct a summer school beginning on the, and I don't want to say the wrong, on the 11th of May. We would do that for a short period of time, for a short summer school that would be focusing real hard on the class or classes that they needed. It would be 1 or 2, so that they could earn that credit to graduate and or move up to the next grade. Once we get that done, and that would mostly be online, but we would make arrangements for students to come in and get some assistance if necessary, and we would do that at a staggered time, so again, we could observe social distancing. Once that short period of time is completed, that would give our students a chance to be promoted to the next grade and or graduate. Now, with all of that said, I also want to talk about the opportunity to come back and be prepared for next year. As we look at summer school, normally summer school would run through June and we would be done with it. With this gap that we have in education, I'm going to recommend using Title I funds. I'm going to recommend that we use July 6th through the 23rd, 4 days a week, for ELA and math and reading for the students that are identified by the principals and the teachers at needing additional assistance. Now, I do not want to confuse anybody. I don't need every student in here. We are going to talk about the students that struggle, the students that need additional help, the students that are challenged academically. We want to get them ready for next year. I'm not talking about the valedictorians. I'm talking about the kids that struggle. We want to give them 3 weeks prior to school starting to get back into school mode, to focus with teacher direction. Understanding this is based on the governor releasing these social distancing issues. That would give us the chance to do summer foods as well, because we would have students in the buildings. All of those things are based on release of social distancing. We could run buses to pick the students up. The students would eat in the cafeteria for summer meals. Everything would be paid through Title I, which Title I summer school is already set up. We would just expand it, and they have released a lot of flexibility for us to use our Title I funds. So this would give us that advantage. With all of that falling into place, that would allow us to feed our students still and allow us to get our kids ready for next year before they walk in ready for new material and being way behind the 8 ball with 3 months off. I truly think that's going to help us academically and help the kids, which is what this is all about. Another issue that the principals and I have talked about is, what do we do for the way we are currently feeding our kids? How are we going to manage that? I talked to, I want to get the name right, Lydia Dodson. Lydia Dodson sent us an email and said through June 30th of 2020, there are no requirements for delivering food. So through June 30, we can still deliver food on Mondays and Thursdays as we're doing right now. Today is a food delivery day. If we cancel, or if we close school on the 30th, like I'm recommending, the old terminology would be you can no longer feed kids because you can't get credit for it. This exemption allows us to do that. So we can still do delivery of food meals on Mondays and Wednesdays to take care of our kids all the way through June 30.
You meant Monday and Thursday?
Monday, Thursday, yes, Monday, Thursday. So Monday, Thursday, we would still be feeding kids the same way we are right now up to June 30. If the board approves all of this, July 6th would start summer school. There would only be a gap of July 4th in there, that week of July 4th, that we wouldn't be feeding, which would be just like spring break was, basically.
1 day, looks like, well, in 3 days.
It's a very short period of time, and I tried to do that on purpose. But the whole idea is, A, we're still feeding our kids, B, we're going to get our kids back early with the relief of the social distancing from July 6th to July 23rd for summer school, targeting our Tier 1 and our Tier 2 kids through RTI. Those are the kids that academically struggle with ELA, reading, and math. We can pay for that through Title I. It allows us to put all these pieces together. Again, ending school April 30th. Post-planning would be May 1 through May 7. Summer school would begin for our kids on May 11 that need it to graduate or be promoted. The other group in July, we're going to ask to come back to get ready for next year. We'll take care of notifying moms and dads. I just want the board to know what's going on. There's a whole lot of notification that has to happen, but I can't do any of that without talking to the board first and getting their approval. So that's why we're sitting here today. We're trying to get ramped up for next year. If we walk into next year without doing this, in my opinion, you're going to have to review for a month. This will take care of that review and we don't lose the educational requirement. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Liz.
I would like to go back, Mr. Superintendent, and ask a question of, you've told us what's been done, but is there documentation of what has happened since we've been in this new atmosphere of instruction with our students and teachers? Do you have documentation of how many student and teacher contacts was made, how much education was done through this process thus far? And if so, what is it?
I don't have actual numbers that X teachers have contacted X number of students every day. No, I do not have that number. What I do have is every child got a packet and or a Chromebook if they wanted one, and they will also have the online ability. Everyone received those packets. Everybody's going to turn those back in. I should have that information after everybody turns it back in.
Okay, but Mr. Chair, the reasoning for my question is because before this meeting,
Bless you.
I took a few days after notifying that this meeting would take place to see what people around us were doing and what kind of documentation teachers had, et cetera, and so on. So I talked to someone in our neighboring county next door, and I'll use them if that's okay. And what they said they were doing there was that teachers they got paid if they were doing their work. And the way that they were surmised at doing their work was documentation. And this one teacher, I'll elaborate on theirs. This one teacher that I talked to said that he has 95 students, and they sent out the package. They had a drop box at the school, a pickup box at the school, and parents, students could pick up. They also had a drop-off box, so every week or whatever, they dropped off what they had completed, and then they could pick up out of the pickup box and then drop off in the drop-off box, and teachers went, you know, and gathered what was theirs. I guess, I don't know who sorted it, but that's how they did it. And he said 90 out of 95 students, 90 had successfully completed or turned in their assignments, and he had 5 that didn't. And they were going to make sure, this particular teacher said he was going to make sure that those 5, because he's like, I want 100%. I want to make sure all my children are doing it and being successful. That's why I asked about the documentation and what kind of standards that we had set to make sure that during this pandemic, teachers are still teaching, students are still learning, and we're not relying on parents who are non-educators to educate their children. I don't have children in the system, and y'all know that, but I do have grandchildren in other systems. And I have my grandchildren, and I have a 3rd grader, and in Cobb County, and they did Zoom. So he was with his classmates every couple of days on Zoom and his teacher, and they were able to interact and see each other and talk back and forth and ask questions. So their education continued. Yes, it's timely. We worked 6.5 hours on schoolwork every day. He had essays to do. He had art projects to do. And I also listened and talked to the folks in Fulton County after I saw an article on how they were interacting with theirs and how they kept the process going with their seniors and their high school students. Because another fear was we've got children in this county who are taking AP classes. So that was another concern. My children took, and I'm sure yours did, and we know how vigorous, and some of yours did as well. We know how vigorous those AP exams are. And so that's why, as a parent, as a education advocate, I'm extremely concerned, not just with the children who may be falling through the gaps, but we also have to be concerned with the children who are AB students. We have to be concerned with the valedictorians and salutatorians, because if they're graduating this year, they missed the whole block. I mean, they missed the whole, we're on block schedule, right? So they missed the whole grading period. What do you call that?
The
9
9
weeks.
They missed the whole 9 weeks. How is that going to affect them when they enter into college? And most likely it could be online. And if any of us have taken online courses, you know, it ain't the easiest thing to do. Some of us learn better with an instructor in front of us. I don't know, y'all may not have that issue, but I like people in front of me teaching me. But they had to get used to it. So I was thinking in my mind, this is a great time during the pandemic to keep education going and teach children how to adjust to online learning. Because we're looking at 2021 calendar, but we don't know for a fact that we're going to be back in the schools. We don't know that we're going to be back in the classroom. So if we don't take the time that we're given to really forge this gap and produce productivity and not take it as a vacation. And I know that we've got excellent teachers. Please don't anybody leave this room and say that I don't appreciate or support our teachers, because I'll tell you that's a lie. I do. And I have for 30-something years, and I will continue. This is not about teachers. This is about us. This is about our superintendent, because we hold this leadership. This is so the buck stops with us. This is our only person that we evaluate. So it stops here. So these are the people I'm looking at, us, not them. So I want to make that perfectly clear, because leadership starts here. And our direction goes to here, because this is where we get our information. So I am not faulting anybody who's not in this circle. And I want that made perfectly clear. So Miss Arthur, you witnessed that. And I'm almost finished. Got one more little thing to say. Budget-wise, we don't know the dollars and cents. So I would like to know, if possible, and it might not be out from the state or from the feds. If not, I understand. Are we going to be fully reimbursed for any extra? And have there been money that came down? Because I know that we have to prepare for digital learning. Do we have enough money to make sure that every child has a computer for, if this spills over to August the 4th, I believe, is our entry day for next year. Do we have enough money to make sure that that happens, and that we have the equipment that we need to set buses? Because I just learned from another county, I believe it was Washington County, that they were prepared to have school buses sit in areas where the internet, the Wi-Fi doesn't reach, and there are some gadgets, and I don't know the technical names, so excuse me, that you can sit on a bus, put these things on buses, have the buses sit in these no connecting areas, and children, students would be able to access the Wi-Fi and internet. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I looked it up yesterday, but I'll respond to that when you're done. Go ahead.
Okay, so Those are my concerns, and I hope that they are received as they were given, with peace, joy, and the love of God.
Mr. Madison?
I was just gonna say, we all know it's a problem, but tell us how to fix it. Because we don't have internet access out in the county, in a lot of places, you know, I mean, we know it's a problem, but,
Well, that was
but
the,
how can you reach all these students? And, I mean, a lot of them don't have telephones. I mean, it is a problem, but we need to prepare for if this happens again, what we gonna do. And
Well,
maybe
that's-
we've learned that, but, I mean, I don't know.
well, there are, I just use Washington County, but
Yeah.
there are other counties who are using these things.
Well,
They're not
let's
that
let-
good.
Let's let Dr. Light
Yeah.
talk about what he has looked up.
We'll back up to the conversation in regards to the buses we've had multiple times in the leadership meetings. The buses actually get loaded or outfitted with multiple computers, switches, all of the pieces that make that work like a portable classroom. The one caveat with the whole thing, and I told the board about this way back in March, I got an email from Sprint saying that Sprint can provide what they call a hotspot, is the technical term. They can provide a hotspot that will work throughout the entire county. And I said, why is yours better than Verizon? Because Verizon's will not. And they said, we cover your entire county. I said, if you send me one, I need at least 200. Send me one so that I can test it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, that's fine too. I didn't get one, I got two. They sent me two. I sent two of our maintenance guys out with our technology group. They quit working before they got to Prater Road. They quit working before they got halfway to Amity. They don't work in Lincoln County, we know that. In outfitting that bus, that's a great idea, but the caveat on all of those buses say you must have reliable, strong cell service for this to work. Now, anybody that's been in Lincoln County more than 2 minutes knows you don't have reliable, strong cell service. It won't work for us because we don't have reliable, strong cell service. If you go back to the census was supposed to help us increase our numbers so that Verizon, who I have called many, many, many times, says our census is not large enough to justify more cell towers. If you don't have more cell towers, you're not going to have strong enough service. I know AT&T is trying to come in and help, but at this point, they don't have as many cell towers as Verizon yet. So they're not really strong enough to provide us what we need for our kids. So it goes back to Jim's point that we know it's an issue. The problem is the connectivity is not out there. We have enough machines for every student to have one. We call it one-on-one. Every child has a machine. The problem is if you take it home and it doesn't do you any good, it's like a boat anchor. You don't need it unless you have connectivity. We don't have that. We have talked multiple times with technology about, can we download this, have a lesson on there, the child takes it home and the child brings it back, we download the next lesson. That's great if we get them transportation back and forth every day. That also creates an issue if we're in social distancing, because somebody's got to receive it, download it, put it back on so the student can take it. So all of that is a negative as far as our situation in Lincoln County not having the connectivity. As far as knowing exactly how many children have been engaged in these lessons,
Before you go there, Mr. Chair, can I ask him a question before he goes into the teachers? It's still on the
Okay, on
computer
the bus? All right.
Yeah.
good.
Mr. Superintendent, I live in rural Lincoln County. I live way in the deep forest, surrounded by pine trees. Technically, I'm not supposed to have Wi-Fi. I'm not supposed to be able to use this. But 10 to 12 years ago, my sons bought me what is called an extender. I can use this all over my property now, because the extender allows my Wi-Fi to, and then last year, 2 years ago, they bought me some little Google extenders to extend the other extender. Y'all know, I don't know technology, but young folks do. So I have products in my house that or probably, I would guess, I don't know, they don't ever tell me, but I would assume they paid 500 or less. I'm hoping 250 and less as a mother. But before this, I had a state employee who's a friend of mine come to my house. Oh, no, they're federal. Come to my house and their phone was working prior to this. That was about 15 years ago. And I said, and they were with a company that I'm not with. And I said, they technically, T-Mobile, ain't supposed to work out here. How is your phone working? Because they had something in their car and they sat in my concrete driveway, you know where that is, and they were on their cell phone because it rang while we were talking and they were able to talk. So, Mr. Superintendent, I'm not technologically astute, but I know there are things that we can do to get this into every home. Yes, they have to have internet. Yes, they have to have a phone line to get internet access in Lincoln County. So that's why I was asking, are there additional funds coming in? Because Congress have talked about in the Senate as well as in the House of Representatives in Minnesota and all these other rural areas across the country, people have complained about Wi-Fi, and they are addressing broadband, and hopefully they'll have it here by the next school term. But if we don't have it, we need to be telling them to put us in the loop and supporting the other states who are complaining.
Ms. Hutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Listen, just listening to this conversation, I don't like dealing in hypotheticals. I would like to see, I recommend we get a survey of exactly how many students we're talking about and their location, where they live, and then we can formulate a plan from there. I mean, if we're talking about 100 students or 20 students, and they all live in one area,
You're talking about the number of students that don't have
that
Wi-Fi?
do not, you
Yeah,
know,
access
I guess
to-
what we're talking about is down the road, in case this is another outbreak, educate students from home or
Yes, sir.
away from the school. So let's figure out exactly what we're dealing with so we know how to handle it. You know, it might not be but 5 students. I mean, every young student I see has a cell phone. Everyone. I don't know anybody that doesn't have a cell phone, me personally.
But, and same point though, I know, because I recently had to go up 79 and I needed an address. I mean, I put it in GPS before I left my house.
Right.
But when I got off Old Petersburg on 79, my car never moved on that GPS.
That's right.
Right.
That's
Fortunately, I knew
Yeah.
enough about where to go
Well, if
to
we
get
don't
there.
have any
And-
students that
and that's-
live there,
and that's
so.
the thing, I mean,
We
there's.
do have students in my district up 79, Mr.
But they
Hyman.
might have Wi-Fi. They
Yeah,
might, you
and
know,
they-
you
I
got,
mean,
you
unless
got
they have
fiber
it in
going
their
to your
home,
Yeah,
They're
I
not
mean, we
gonna
don't
get it
know.
from just the phone. And
Yeah, we don't know.
But I'm telling you because I do know. I'm not, this is not
Well,
hypothetical.
bring us a list of who it is. the
Well,
ones
that's
that
not
you do
my
know.
job.
But-
That's
but
the
I mean,
superintendent's job. That's not my job,
But
and
you,
I'm not
you
gonna
talk
do
about
this job.
that. I mean, it's in your home, and that's
It
the
would
thing.
help.
Right, but I
Different
was
ones
trying
have it in
to,
your home, and I have good service in my home. I work from my home, so I mean,
Right.
I took care of, I got what I needed in that home. But at the same point, you can go up the
everybody
street,
can't,
and then someone that's nearby me, they're not gonna have it.
that was
They're
my
not gonna have
point.
it. And so
Thank you.
I like what Mr. Heitman said. With this turn-in, with the, we need to know,
The
and
numbers.
that's.
That's correct.
Because, I mean, that's, it's not really anything that can affect this year,
Right.
but it
Right.
can affect next year.
Future
Amen.
planning, that's what
That's
you're
part
talking
of the
about.
planning. and
That's
the
what I was
arrangement for
saying,
next
yes.
year. Yes, absolutely.
All right, so we've heard, looking forward, we've heard about, what we really need to do, and we have to plan for next year, because we don't know what next year's gonna hold for us. So we have to, as a leadership team, be part of that. I know y'all have been talking about that. I like what you said about the July school, definitely for the needs-based. But right now, what we're here for now is to look at the finishing of 2020. in what's been proposed from the 2020 calendar. Y'all heard what Dr. Light said about finishing up with the current packet system that they've used, what they gave out. Fortunately for us, we were one of the few schools that I've talked to in a few districts that actually finished in person the third 9 weeks. Most of them, based on schedule, they had not finished, in person 9 weeks. So that was a good aspect that just so happened that our schedule allowed for us to finish 3 complete 9 weeks. And so that helped us, I think, in some aspects of being able to solidify the grade process that we had for that. Any discussion on what's been proposed for this, finishing up this school year?
One question, could Dr. Light finish the documentation statement he was about to make? Dr. Light?
In regards to the finances?
No, you were telling us about the teacher and how that went.
As far as the exact number of teachers that have interacted with our kids, I would feel very confident in saying 100% because I know how great our teachers are. To say that Mrs. Jones was online and the others did it face-to-face, I don't have those exact numbers in front of me. I know that our principals have interacted with a lot of our teachers on a daily basis and have seen teachers actually come to their classroom and do either Google Hangout is what we use because we are a Google classroom and a Google district as opposed to Zoom. We use Google, but they're interacting with those kids online as much as they possibly can based on their connectivity. I know that standing down there during the meals, I've seen children walk up or children that we have met coming in the car and had a couple of questions about a lesson that they were working on and interacted with them and tried to help them. That happens every day. It doesn't happen just on Monday and Thursday. That's going on. We have exceptional teachers, as you identified, and they're taking care of that. I don't have that exact 95 number. I don't know the accuracy of that. I know we have exceptional teachers that care about our kids and are taking care of our kids. My thought on the finances, we do or did receive additional finances to help us through the federal relief and the state relief that both the federal and state government applied for. We don't have any of the state or federal final numbers yet for next year. Most of the districts, in fact, I talked to Corey Kirby from Harbin and Hartley yesterday. Harbin and Hartley is recommending that we pass a spending resolution until the state provides what we're going to have for FY21. Now, you remember a spending resolution is something that the board passes that allows the board to pay their bills without having a budget in front of them. And you can do that over a long period of time if you want, but normally it's done on a month-by-month basis. The reason for that is you're expected to submit that budget. The reason we don't have a budget or wouldn't have is because we don't know what we're going to get from the state yet. There's conversation about how bad will this hurt the state. Obviously, Georgia has tried to provide some stimulation back to the economy to allowing people to come back to restaurants and works and those kind of things. We don't know how much that's going to help us. We don't know how much we've lost yet. I don't think the state does either. But we don't have an FY21 estimation of cost yet because the Congress hasn't come back at the state level yet. So a spending resolution is what Harbin and Hartley is recommending. Kay and I are going to talk about that either tomorrow or Monday when she comes back into work, depending on what she has to do personally. So at that point, we will have more information for you as we hit the May board meeting. So yes, we did get a little bit extra money, but yes, we're still trying to figure out all of the finances on that side of it.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Let me just see if anyone else has any
Okay.
questions that they have. Anything that y'all have for the calendar? Ms. Franklin?
the other question that I have about the calendar, Mr. Chair, is, let me say this prior. When I ask a question, it's because people in the community are telling me things, but I don't know it's true until I hear it here. You understand what I'm saying? And I feel like this is information that we should have and not hear on the street. That's why I'm asking these questions, because obviously it's already leaked out to the community. And I think as the board, we should be privy to this information prior to. It's not that I didn't know the answers. I didn't know that the answers were true until I hear it from our superintendent. And I hope that that makes sense and is logical to everybody, because I don't take rumors to be gospel. Getting back to the April 30th end of school, would you just share with me and help me to understand as a board member how that will benefit our district, our students, our teachers, etc., and so on? Because I don't fully understand the benefit of April 30th. And I did look around. I know that I believe Columbia County's is May 8th. I believe Wilkes County is May 8th. I believe Richmond County is May 8th. So why are we doing the April 30th and not falling in line with what's happening around us with the May 8th calendar? And you can probably make sense of it, but I'm asking because I don't know.
In my opinion, April 30th makes the most sense for two reasons. A, it gives us more time for post-planning. B, it eliminates the need for our teachers to come back in and create packets that will not be used within the final grade process for our students if we would eliminate the testing time. It also gives us the opportunity to start summer school much sooner, which is the biggest push that I'm trying to make. I know we have lost some educational time due to this. I can't get children back in front of teachers until we get the social distancing relieved, but I want to be ready to start school all the way up to July 6th to have students and teachers in front of each other as soon as that social distancing is relieved. The farther I push the close of school back, the less time I have to get ready. I'm trying to close school on days that I don't feel are going to be educationally useful right now, but will be extremely valuable in early July.
Then I'm a little confused, so bear with me.
It's 1 week.
We
It's
are-
1 week difference in the other counties.
Yeah, I understand the time, the
And we
days.
stayed, we went a week longer than they
If
did,
you-
right?
Yeah, but
I'm trying to get in my mind what you're asking and where you're
yeah,
headed
you
and
just
all
messed
that.
my up with what I was going to ask. I'm
Just
sorry.
pretend I didn't say anything. I'm sorry, Chairman.
I can't. I lost my train of thought. But anyway, I believe what I was going to ask was similar to how, help me to understand, with the numbers every day on Georgia Public Health rising, why are we only in one mindset? I hear your explanations, but they're in one mindset of the possibility, the probability of students and teachers being able to be face-to-face in a classroom. As I listen to NHI, Dr. Fauci, as I listen to CDC, Dr. Redfield, I believe is his name, and I listen to other scientists, epidemiologists, I hope I pronounced that correctly, I'm thinking, because they're saying that there is a strong possibility and probability that there won't be school in August, that there will be an extremely high rise in COVID-19 in Georgia. That's what they've been talking ever since our governor decided to reopen the state. And that's why they're saying it's not a good idea. So if you're talking about summer school in June, July, I think those
Well,
are
the summer school that he's mentioned has still been a social distancing summer school up and through to July. And
He said
from-
social distancing, he did not say via computer, and that's where I got confused, and that's why I'm asking this question. So that's why I'm asking, are you thinking in person? Because he did make the statement in person with students and teachers in a classroom. He did make that
He said
statement.
for July, starting in July.
Right, it's starting in July.
If
July is
social
supposed to be
distancing
one of the
was
peaking
lifted.
months. So what I'm saying is, why aren't we looking at both sides, in person and digital? We can't afford at this point in time just to be single-minded and look at in person. We have to plan today for both, because we don't know what the future is going to bring. That's all I'm saying.
And that's what.
And
Mr.
people
Hyde
said,
meant.
don't think in hypothetical, or, you know, with this pandemic, we have to think both ways. We can't afford to put ourselves in a box. We have to think outside the box. And if this pandemic hasn't made that very clear to us, then we're not doing our jobs as serving our communities on this board, serving education. This pandemic has made us come outside our comfort zone. And I
Right.
understand
So
that.
we need the facts about what we can get facts about.
But we do have those facts, we just don't have them before us because these questions have been raised for many, many years. Because I have raised them many, many years on this board, sitting in this seat. How many students do we have in Lincoln County that don't have internet? How many do we need to look at? This is not the first time this question has been raised since you've been sitting on this board.
No, I agree.
So I just want the public who's looking in to understand these numbers should be before us, because this is not the first conversation. But in this pandemic, these things should be at our fingertips so that we could have a productive meeting this morning. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
I can
Speaking
assure
of,
you that we are absolutely looking at both sides of this from a digital standpoint as well as a face-to-face when we start in July. Every one of our teachers already have been working on digital. They have worked on digital since this thing hit us in the face, and we tried to figure out how to do it. I truly believe that face-to-face education is the best. However, digital is a whole lot better than none. If we give our teachers, through the board approving this plan, enough notice, they can prepare for both. Unfortunately, when the governor said no more school, period, we had to turn around and change things at a very drastic, quick pace. This way, if we can get this approved, we'll have the opportunity to have our teachers plan a lot more than they did the first time because we're giving them notice.
okay, before us is the plan. We need a motion to accept this plan if we choose to go this route. And we can vote on it as such.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
one other question. I see our principals are here. Can I ask a question that,
Excuse me.
before we take this vote, of our administrators?
Go ahead, Ms. Reed.
I didn't want to put Ms. Arthur on the spot, but I saw all the principals are here, so I'd like to ask this question. And please be very honest, because I simply don't know, and I want the information so that I can make the best decision and choice that I can. In closing the schools, April 30th, would you just briefly tell me why that's a good idea? 2 words, just, if you don't mind. If you do mind, that's quite all right, and I understand.
Or if you think it's a bad idea. I mean, you say,
Or if you think-
I don't like it, and that's more than 2 words, but that's sufficient.
Well, we meet every Monday and Thursday as an administrative team. That's the day we came up with together. We make packets already through the end of the month. So then we don't need to create any more packets if we've given out the packets sufficient enough for the review.
What do you all need, and I thank you, what do you all need monetarily wise if this pandemic continues the way it's growing, to make digital, whatever you call it, access, computers, hotspots, internet for every student? Because y'all kind of got an idea. You may not have the perfect number, but most of y'all been here for a while, so you probably got an idea of how many students don't and would need So, dollar-wise, would you need like $280,000, $340,000 to make that happen? What, and if you don't have that number in your head, I hope you will talk about that, because that would be great information for us to know if we're gonna do a budget and plan both sides of this. Does that make sense to y'all?
I just know, talking about, like, we do have federal monies that are available in Title I, and most of these kids come
Yeah,
from
he
at-risk
talked.
kids, so therefore, I don't foresee money being an issue with local money being used for this, especially identifying those students as at risk and needing the support. So that's what Title I is for, and I know you guys know that. So it helps support at-risk kids to make sure they're on a level playing field. So I'm sure we can buy devices and things with Title I, and when school stopped, we still had a good amount of Title I dollars left. So I'm sure that's going to carry over, and I think we're going to be fine, and it shouldn't hopefully mess with the local board funding.
I thought that, but I couldn't assume it. I asked the superintendent earlier, but you explained it perfectly so that everybody could understand, because that was my assumption, that we could use Title I money for that digital, but when I asked, it was not answered that way, so thank you. All questions are answered. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
You have before you what the superintendent has proposed for our revision of our school calendar for the 2019-2020 school year. Can I get a
I'll
motion?
make a motion, we accept it.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the proposal by the superintendent as written. Do we have a second? I have a second by Mr. Heitman. All in favor? All right, unanimous.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present this. Thank you so
All right,
much.
I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right.
Oh,
Thank you.
we didn't touch the spending resolution, but that's okay. We've already adjourned.
Thank you, ma'am.